We Buy Cars has agreed to pay 31 of its customers a settlement of over 3.4 million rand. In addition to this, the vehicle retailer will also pay a 2.5 million rand administrative fine and create 300 job opportunities in a period of 5 years. This comes after the National Consumer Commission found that the retailer contravened several provisions of the Consumer Protection Act. Among these is its terms of sale and its warranty agreements. We Buy Cars was under investigation after the NCC received complaints from disgruntled consumers. We Buy Cars has also agreed to revise its terms of conditions. For reaction on the story, I'm now joined by the Acting Commissioner of the National Consumer Commission, Hardin Ratshisusu. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ratshisusu. Thanks very much for your time. Help us understand sort of the nature and extent of these contraventions that We Buy Cars is being accused of. In other words, what sort of specific complaints are we talking about? What were they accused of doing, that which obviously you agreed with?
Good afternoon, viewer and Newzroom Afrika viewers. This is a very, it was a very significant investigation from our side, very important one, particularly looking at the issues that are at play here. So just to explain this to you, is that the main issue here is that, as you know, We Buy Cars is a used car dealership. So what mostly has been happening is consumers would buy a car, it would manifest defects within sometimes a very short space of time. And when they have to return it or get it fixed by We Buy Cars, they were experiencing difficulties. And in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, consumers are provided a warranty. So this is an implied warranty in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, which says that for any good or service consumer buys, the supplier has to provide warranty for 6 months. So this is an implied warranty. It's a basic consumer right that is there. So whether is it for new cars or used cars or any other product. So there were these concerns that We Buy Cars is not attending to these concerns. We identified these particular cases, 31 of them, where We Buy Cars was not entertaining the concerns from the consumers. And when we investigated deeper, we found that the root cause of this is We Buy Cars' terms and conditions. So the terms and conditions included provisions that offend the Consumer Protection Act. So you would have provisions that say, well, if you buy this car, we cannot warrant that maybe or guarantee that the odometer reading is correct. Or if you take it, based on this assessment report, we also cannot guarantee that the assessment report is as accurate as it ought to be. So that to us offended the Consumer Protection Act.
And what were, I'm keen to know what their explanations or reasons were. I mean, for something like, if we take the latter point you make, clearly they are aware that in certain instances at least, I mean, the odometer reading may not reflect the actual mileage of the car. So what were their excuses or reasons? What do they provide as explanations for such inclusions in their terms of sale?
We did put this up to We Buy Cars that these are the issues that we found, and the next step in the process would be to prosecute this before the National Consumer Tribunal. But they then reached out, engaged in we had very constructive engagements. They explained, and of course, these terms are in black and white. They explained that they had, obtained advice on how to craft these terms and conditions. And we, of course, indicated to them that where there is a contravention, there is very little that we can do to assist them. So they'll have to admit to these contraventions so that we can move forward. So there wasn't really persuasive explanation why we have terms of this nature in their terms and conditions of sale. So that then got us to the table with them, engaged in a settlement discussion, which included them agreeing to pay a penalty of 2.5 million, refunding that group of 31 customers just about 3.4 million rand, and also agreeing to amend these terms and conditions, which is quite important. And in addition to that, they will be engaging in a consumer awareness program, working with an independent party to ensure that they educate consumers. And we need to see in practice that they've indeed internalized this and implementing, their practices in line with the Consumer Protection Act. And finally, they've said, well, maybe to enhance their service levels, they offered to create additional 300 jobs within the We Buy Cars operations, and they will do over a period of 5 years. So the way we put out, these issues to them, I think it was clear to us that there was no other way than, for the company to resolve these issues.
But if we park the agreement between yourselves and We Buy Cars for a second, Commissioner, isn't it true that they have reached this settlement because they were caught? You undertook an investigation. If you hadn't done that, they would have gotten away with murder.
We are here as the National Consumer Commission to protect consumers in the country. So it's our job really to investigate, these sectors, industry, and we do, almost, where we look, we do find, some areas of concern, and I think this is one such example. But what we have picked up, with the company is that, of course, there are these 31 complaints, but there are also other complaints through the Ombud that they are resolving. So we have been seeing, a lot of complaints, around the business, and we are hoping that with their commitment now, and it's confirmed by the tribunal. So when their commitment to amend the terms, which terms were a source and source of these kinds of complaints, we're going to see maybe lesser and lesser complaints, going forwards, better service to consumers. So this is what we do from a regulatory point of view. Of course, we would like to see businesses in South Africa, operating fairly, competitively, and complying with our laws.
One wonders, though, Commissioner, as to just how many businesses out there are actually getting away with this malpractice without being detected.
It's a bit, we don't have maybe much time today, but we have a long list of matters that we are dealing with. And it's mostly in the automotive space. We have matters we are dealing with in the telecoms industry, and you're right. We are picking up that not many businesses have internalized the and are fully compliant with the Consumer Protection Act. And actions like this, a settlement like this, we could have, gone for a very, lengthy period of litigation. But we think, resolving a matter, in this way, would also send a message to other businesses in this space that, there is this law. It's a law that has to be, complied with. It's a law that must be respected. And judging also from the list of complaints we are receiving, we are receiving close to 6,000 complaints a year from consumers, which again shows that there are some challenges, and I think you are right in pointing that out.
But is it simply, Commissioner, a question of them not internalizing the applicable laws, or is it a question, or is it not a question of them willfully evading the law?
Well, let's look at the company we're talking about. To reach a settlement like this, we engage at the very highest level, of the business, with the CEOs and the founders. And when you engage at that level, you get a sense that there is at least a recognition that there are laws that must be respected, and it's one of those cases here where they had those clauses in their terms and conditions that were quite problematic and that offended the Consumer Protection Act. But we are quite positive, as the regulator, that with the work that we are doing, with the level, of advocacy engagements we partake in, we are sending the message as widely as possible to businesses so that businesses can comply. There will, of course, be those businesses that choose not to comply with the law, and we will take action, against those businesses. And we do encourage consumers to bring those matters to us as and when they happen, so that we can attend to them from a regulator's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, without laboring the point, Commissioner, this is my problem, because We Buy Cars is a JSE listed a company, and one of the biggest, not a small company by any stretch of imagination. It has access to finances, it has access to the best, expertise you can possibly get. So no argument can be made that perhaps they haven't internalized all the applicable laws, and it's difficult for me to accept that. But we're going to leave it there. Let me thank you very much for your time, Acting Commissioner of the National Consumer Commission, Hardin Ratshisusu.